The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Warrior, thief, conqueror, king, Conan.
Let us take the world by the throat and make it give us what we desire.
Conan the Barbarian. Rated R.
This 80s flick stands as one of the defining fantasy films of our generation. Set in the harsh, mythic world of the Hyborian Age, the story follows the epic warrior on his quest for vengeance against the sinister Thulsa Doom, the necromancer who destroyed his village and left him an orphan. Upon its release, the flick garnered mixed reviews, praised for its stunning production design and thrilling action, but criticized for its heavy dose of violence and subpar acting performances. Despite this, it was a box office hit and found lasting success in home video markets. So grab your steel weapon, prepare for battle, and watch out for snake arrows as Gerry D, Laramy Wells, and I discuss Conan the Barbarian from 1982 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Welcome in, everybody, to the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Williams. Glad to have you on this episode. We're always excited to have you. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. We also want to hear from you. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you're feeling generous, please support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com. Every little bit helps, and you can also visit us. Visit our website, 80sflickflashback.com, and our TeePublic store for some awesome 80s Flick Flashback merch and original designs. Today, we're joined by two fearless warriors of the podcasting world. They've wielded their swords of knowledge and sharpened their wit in preparation to explore the harsh lands of Hyboria. First up, we have a man who might not conquer kingdoms with his brute force, but he's certainly a master at unraveling cinematic lore. It's Gerry D from Totally Rad Christmas. How you doing, Gerry?
Hey, what's happening, Tim? No, I definitely am not strong enough to conquer kingdoms with force, but hopefully I can with 80s Christmas knowledge.
There you go. There you go. And what says Christmas more than Conan the Barbarian?
Heck yeah.
Next, we got the kind of guest who'll make you feel like you've been drinking the waters of life. With him by your side, we'll certainly be thinking deeper about the story of Conan, as he knows that, like the mystic wizard, knowledge is power. From moving panels, it's Laramy Wells. How you doing, Laramy?
I don't want to waste too much of my dialogue, so
Oh, yeah, the grunting of Arnold is our early introduction to him. So much fun. So yeah, Conan the Barbarian. What an epic movie we're going to talk about. So let's jump right in. Gerry, when did you see Conan the Barbarian for the very first time?
Very first time was the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
I remember I had actually seen Conan the Destroyer more often. And then my cousins were, I was talking about Conan the Destroyer with him, was on, and they're like, "Oh, I prefer the first one." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And sure enough, so I had my dad rent it, and I probably saw things that I shouldn't have seen when I was, at that age, but I saw it and I loved it, and yeah, it was awesome. And they were right; it was better.
Yeah. What about you, Laramy? First time watch?
I honestly don't know, but you know me, it was probably
Probably
on
on
TV.
TV.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
It was probably only like an hour and a half long once you edit it for TV.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, but honestly, I cannot pinpoint when, and I don't know, like Gerry said, I don't know if I saw Conan Barbarian or Destroyer. I don't know which one I saw first. So it wasn't until I would probably say within the last 5 years that I could actually tell you the difference between the two. So
Right, I gotcha.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I remember this was one that my dad watched. I remember when it came, like when it premiered on HBO, and my dad, we had upstairs, downstairs house, and the living room was downstairs where the TV was, and I had to stay upstairs while he watched the movie downstairs in the living room. Like, I wasn't allowed. It was an R-rated. I guess he already knew that it had like nudity in it, and of course it was going to be very violent or whatever. And so, I remember him watching it and me not being, and me like trying to sneak down the stairs to like hear through the door what I thought might be going on in the movie. No clue.
and of course all you heard was
Grunting Arnold. Yeah.
We didn't know if that was a fight scene or a sex scene. It was
Right.
either-
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what a sex scene was back then.
That's true. Yeah,
But
you still don't after watching this movie.
yeah.
that's a little of both. Yeah, little column A, little column B.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But I remember seeing Conan the Destroyer, of course, when it came out later. And so talking about how long have you been since you rewatched it? So I probably saw this movie from the beginning as is in the last 10 years. But I'm like Laramy, I think at some point, like as a teenager, it had to have been on TBS or USA or one of those cable channels. And I probably watched a highly edited version because there are parts of the movie, like I remember seeing this. Like I remember the him in the paint, like I guess the warrior paint when they go into the Thulsa Doom's sanctuary
Serpent
or whatever,
Tower, yeah.
the Serpent Tower.
Grotto.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I remembered like seeing him like that. I remembered, and there was some other like there's other scenes that I kind of remembered. But so yeah. So how long had it been for you since you rewatched it?
This is one that I watch quite frequently.
Okay.
I remember in college, I was collecting VHS because it was still VHS back then.
Why not? Yeah.
So I remember this is one I bought and watched whenever my roommate was like out of town and be like just hanging out watching. Throw this one on, and then follow it with Purple Rain, and they go so well.
Right.
But yeah, and then so I tend to watch this one at least once a year, sometimes 2 or 3 times, just depending. Because I don't know, this one is super nostalgic for me, and it does bring back memories of, again, like I said, my cousins and things like that. So the last time I saw it, not for this podcast, was this past like November.
Okay. What about you, Laramy?
Oh, we actually covered it on Moving Panels about 3 years ago.
Yeah, I remember us covering the Destroyer, and I was like, did I watch it for your podcast or not? I couldn't remember.
It was Chad that was
okay. Gotcha.
my co-host for that one. But yeah.
Okay.
About 3 years ago, did Conan the Barbarian, and that was the last time I watched it up until you asked me to do it. So
Gotcha.
it is definitely not a yearly watch for me.
I understand. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into origin and pre-production. And I asked Laramy because he's covered it on his podcast and because he is the guru of bringing comic books to the theater or to the screens with his Moving Panels podcast. I asked him to give us a little history lesson on how Conan came to the comics and how the comics led it to this adaptation.
Yeah, so obviously not originally a comic. It was a group of novels created by Robert E. Howard back in the 1930s. However, Marvel got the license to turn it into a comic book in 1970. And their original run, which would last from 1970 to 1993, would run 275 issues.
Wow.
They would kind of blend some of Howard's original stories in, and he's still a comic today. He is no longer with Marvel. Marvel lost the rights in, I got to look real quick, 2023. And currently Titan Comics, through their Heroic Signatures, publishes it, and they've gone back to a more like pulp style with the stories and all.
But he did get to join the Avengers before they lost it.
Yeah, he did a lot in Marvel. I mean, it was a nice little run.
But also, who hasn't joined the Avengers, right?
Yeah,
Nowadays,
you've been a Marvel property. You've
been the Avenger.
You've been an Avenger at some point. But yeah, so you've got there's no direct adaptation, obviously. This is an original movie and all, but it uses a lot of the same tone and character dynamics. The inclusion of Valeria and Conan retrieving the sword from the tomb is actually from one of Howard's stories called Red Nails, which they did adapt into the comics. But Thulsa Doom is actually not a Conan character at all.
Right.
Yeah, he's from Kull, which I almost think there's a chance I saw Kull the Conqueror before I knew what Conan the Barbarian was.
Heaven Sorbo.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It was a successful pulp novel, and then the comic, which I didn't give credit to Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith, who were the ones that brought it into the comic world. Of course, Roy Thomas is a legend in Marvel, but yeah, they're the ones that brought it in, and the popularity from the 70s of this comic is very much helped influence Hollywood to turn it into a movie.
Perfect segue there. So yeah, from the 70s, licensing issues hindered the production of making it into a film. Lancer Books, which acquired the rights in 1966, went into receivership, leading to legal disputes that froze the publishing rights. In 1975, Edward Summer proposed Conan to producer Edward R. Pressman, who was convinced after reviewing comics and Frazetta's artwork. It took 2 years to secure the film rights, with Glenn Lord and DeCamp forming Conan Properties Incorporated to manage licensing. Pressman spent over $100,000 in legal fees and $7,500 for the rights. The success of Star Wars in 1977 sparked Hollywood's interest in quote-unquote heroic adventures, further boosting Conan's popularity among young male audiences. So director John Milius expressed interest in directing a Conan film in 1978 after completing his movie Big Wednesday. He and producer Buzz Fitchens approached Pressman, but discussions stalled due to differences. Oliver Stone joined the project after Paramount offered funding for a $2.5 million budget, provided that a named screenwriter was involved. And at that point, Stone was, screenwriter. After failing to secure Frank Frazetta as a visual consultant, Ron Cobb was engaged for set design. However, the estimated cost of Stone's script soared to $40 million, and they struggled to find a studio to finance it. Pressman faced financial issues and borrowed money to keep his production company afloat. Attempts to find a suitable director, including Oliver Stone, Joe Alves, and rejection from Ridley Scott, also hindered the progress. So could you imagine this as a Ridley Scott movie?
Yeah. Written, else, right?
Written by Oliver Stone.
Written by, with 10,000 mutants, right?
Yeah. So Cobb showed Milius his work on the Conan script, which reignited Milius's interest in the project. After negotiating with Pressman, they agreed that Milius would direct the film if he would modify the script. Known for his tough screenplays like Dirty Harry and Magnum Force, Milius was under contract with producer Dino De Laurentiis for his next film. He proposed Conan to De Laurentiis, and after a year of discussions, they agreed to co-produce the film. De Laurentiis took over financing and production, while Pressman kept approval rights over changes to the script, cast, and director. Milius was officially appointed as director in early 1979, with Cobb as the production designer. Universal Pictures was secured as the North American distributor, contributing $17.5 million to the budget and $12 million for advertising. That was a lot. It took a lot to get there. Then comes the script, which is the really fun part. The film's story development began in 1976 when Summer, with help from comic writer Roy Thomas, drafted a script inspired by Howard's Rogues in the House, where Conan is hired by a priest to kill an evil wizard. The script was abandoned when Oliver Stone joined the project. At that time, Stone was struggling with addiction, and his drug-fueled screenplay, which Milius described as a drug fever dream, was completed by 1978. In Stone's version, influenced by Howard's Black Colossus and A Witch Shall Be Born, was set in a post-apocalyptic future where Conan leads an army against 10,000 mutants, as Gerry mentioned, to defend a princess's kingdom. Additionally, the idea of painting symbols on Conan's body to ward off spirits was inspired by the Japanese story Hoichi the Earless from Kwaidan in 1965. I'm once again got to stop putting stuff in the notes I can't pronounce. When Milius became director, thank you. When Milius became director, he took over writing the screenplay, although Stone was still credited as a co-writer. Stone claimed Milius ignored his suggestions, discarding the second half of the story, but keeping elements from the first. Those elements that were kept were Conan's crucifixion from A Witch Shall Be Born and the Tower of Serpents scene from Tower of the Elephant. Milius expanded on Conan's youth, adding his enslavement at the Wheel of Pain and gladiator training. He also drew inspiration from other films such as Kwaidan for the symbols on Conan's bodies we mentioned, and Seven Samurai for the final battle. Milius incorporated elements from post-Howard stories too, like Conan's discovery of a tomb and the thing in the crypt. Derek Ellie of Variety noted that Milius' script was faithful to Howard's vision of Conan. And this is all in this pre-production section with Milius's quote. He said, "All the basic emotions in the script are always accessible to audiences. All the things that Conan does, we all feel ourselves. He just acts on them with more intensity than we do. He is a character who relies on the animal. And I always believe that the animal instincts are often the worst part of them. All you do when you evolve is corrupt yourself sooner or later." End quote.
Yeah.
He's very passionate about this. But but he was, but honestly, I think I read some other things like he wasn't aware of the comics at all when he started on the film. Like he wanted to make a Viking movie. That was what drew him to the project, was he wanted to make a Viking movie, which I guess is why his story isn't, it's true to somewhat of who Conan was, but even some of the stuff I read said that even the character of Conan isn't consistent from story to story. Like he's not really a hero. He's not really an anti-hero. He's just somebody who finds himself in a situation and sometimes does heroic things. So, so it's interesting how they, kind of pulled all those elements together.
I always wanted to read the Conan books, but every time I'm about to, something else always catches my eye, and I end up reading that instead. But it's on my plan. It's on my to-do list, of like things to do. I do want to read the original Howard books. I'll get to it someday, hopefully.
Have you read any of them?
I have the movies.
Yeah. Have you read any of them, Laramy? Have you read the books?
Not the books. No,
okay.
I've read some of the comics, but
yeah, same. But that's about it.
Mm-hmm. We all know I'm not a big reader, so it's not on my agenda. Book reader, I guess. I mean, I read.
Do a movie podcast, no reading.
Why read when we can watch?
Me fail English. That's impossible.
The 80s Flick Flashback podcast will return after these messages.
Are you a fan of movies and TV shows inspired by comics? Ready for a podcast that dives deep into the thrilling world of adaptations? Well, look no further. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. This is your go-to podcast for all things comics on screen. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and every Monday we explore the dynamic universe where ink meets action. We break down the classics, reveal hidden gems, and uncover the creative process behind your favorite adaptations. Subscribe to Moving Panels now on your favorite podcast platform and join us on this epic journey through the pages of comics and onto the big screen. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday. Don't miss out. Moving Panels, where every panel has a story and every adaptation is a blockbuster. Subscribe today, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
What's up, dudes? I'm Gerry D of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, books, fashion, and fads.
If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, he's got it covered. Wait, is there a lot of things to talk about for the 80s and Christmas?
Well, you got the movie giants like Christmas Vacation, Scrooged, and A Christmas Story. There are TV specials like Muppet Family Christmas, Claymation Christmas Celebration, and a Garfield Christmas special.
Plus classics shown every year.
You also jam out to Last Christmas, Do They Know It's Christmas, and Christmas in Hollis. But most of all, it was a time for the most bodacious, best-selling Christmas toys ever, like He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers,
and Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yes, them too. We cover them all, plus much more, including standard segments like Hap Hap Happiest Memory, Gag Me with the Spoon, The Other Half of the Battle,
and Chant with the Littles.
So tune in to Totally Rad Christmas everywhere you get your podcasts. Turn the clock back and dive into those warm and fuzzy memories.
Later, dudes.
Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre a la para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
All right, so to cover casting, I decided to do this one a little different. We've covered most of the cast in previous episodes, so this is
everybody knows who Arnold Schwarzenegger is.
So we'll talk a little bit about how they were cast and who they are and how it kind of fit into the pre-production. So in the quest for the perfect lead in Conan, producers Pressman and Summer initially considered big names like Charles Bronson and Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, right. However,
Bronson would have been like a bonkers choice, man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
However, after viewing Pumping Iron in '76, they realized Arnold Schwarzenegger was the ideal choice thanks to his impressive physique.
I mean, he was straight out of like Frazetta, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
they said he was
basically Frank Frazetta's like artwork come to life.
Exactly. Pressman's supportive approach convinced Schwarzenegger to take the role, which he viewed as a pivotal opportunity in his career, earning him $250,000 and a contract that barred him from any other sword and sorcery films until this was made. Despite the project shifting to De Laurentiis, Pressman's confidence helped Schwarzenegger retain his role. To prepare, he committed to an 18-month training regimen, shedding weight and honing his athleticism. Alongside him, novice actors Gerry Lopez and Sandal Bergman took on significant roles, with Schwarzenegger even staying at Lopez's home to build rapport before filming. So let's talk about those two. So Gerry Lopez, who played Subotai, was a champion surfer but had little acting experience. His only notable previous film role was playing himself in the film Big Wednesday, which is also directed by John Milius. So, hey.
That's a hard...
got to do with the director.
Some days, all right?
But I thought I had in the notes, but actually they ended up dubbing his voice. So that's not his voice in the movie. That felt like his delivery it was too inconsistent. So his acting was fine, but the delivery of his lines weren't good. So they dubbed him with a professional voice actor.
Which is always kind of a bummer.
Like.
Yeah. Looking at you, Hercules in New York.
Right. And then Sandal Bergman was a professional dancer whose few previous roles in films were, whose previous film roles were in dance-related films. She was recommended for the role by director Bob Fosse, who worked with her in All That Jazz in '79. So. Milius sought actors whose appearances resonated with their characters, believing they should embody their roles without preconceived notions. Although he had reservations about their initial performances, he adapted the script to suit their skills. Schwarzenegger also faced challenges with his dialogue, requiring extensive speech training to refine his delivery. I was told that, or I didn't put it here, but I read like some of his like longer dialogue scenes, they would have him practice like 40 times. Like he would rehearse with the director to try to get his enunciation better. But it's honestly
like
not
a good neighbor.
I hear the lamentation of the women.
Yeah, the women. Yeah, it's actually not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, you've heard people talk about it for so long. I expect it to be worse. But if you've seen,
but you also got to think of we've known Arnold for so long.
That's true. That's true.
We understand him.
Yeah,
a 1982 audience that had almost not seen Arnold at all probably didn't.
Right. They were probably like, "Where are the subtitles?"
For real.
And actually, one of Melissa's ideas was to actually have no dialogue, to be all instrumental. Like the music in this is still pretty heavy.
I mean, Basil Polidorus, man, that dude rocked it hardcore with his stuff. It's operatic, it's big, it's driving, it's brassy, very percussive and regal. But it's fantastic. I love it. The orgy scene, the music there is like one of my favorite pieces of music. It's just bum 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 bum, bum. And it's just it's so great. And then they reuse it in the Destroyer, which is fantastic. I was hoping to order, I just didn't get a chance to, but I was hoping to order that you can actually purchase the full score of the music for this film, and I just unfortunately just didn't get a chance to. I really wanted to like dig in and talk music, but time got away from me.
That's all right. That would be its own separate episode. I do have a note about it later on, but there was still a ton in the notes. I was like, I've got to scale it back as much as I can. So the other roles, Sean Connery and John Huston were considered for various roles, but James Earl Jones and Max von Sydow were cast to inspire the cast. So they wanted more seasoned actors to help with the lesser known cast. James Earl Jones took the role of Thulsa Doom after turning down a part in an animated Grendel adaptation. He balanced filming with starring in a Broadway play and often coached Schwarzenegger on his acting. Max von Sydow did this movie for his son, who was a longtime Conan fan. So that's how they got involved. But
that's like pretty typical, right? Because Frank Langella took Masters of the Universe because he was a He-Man fan. I mean, that's you got to do it. Same thing with the what's his name, Mario from the Super Mario Brothers, Bob Hoskins. His son was a Mario Brothers fan, so he took that role. So I don't blame him, and quite frankly, I think he comes out looking super cool.
Yeah, I mean, his part is so small. He has that one scene, and there's a deleted scene of his death. Like it's never really told in the story, but he gets killed by Thulsa Doom's henchman or whatever. Which I did watch. It was interesting. Yeah, I was interesting because I have the Blu-ray and they had the deleted scenes. Like, I'll watch the deleted scenes. The deleted scenes of his death scene is literally 3 different takes from 3 different angles of the exact same scene. So it's not edited to watch as a full scene. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I've never really seen a deleted scene this way on a Blu-ray. So it was kind of cool. Max von Sydow was the real first actor Schwarzenegger ever worked against, at least according to Arnold himself. He said he learned so much from the one scene he had with von Sydow and watching him transform from off camera to on. He said it was staggering how loud he could scream, how well he projected the scene and everything. I knew how far one could go with acting at that point. So that he's always been he was a big fan of Max von Sydow, but legendary actor.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Seventh Seal, is that what it was that he was in? The Seventh Seal or with the Seventh Sign. The Seventh Seal, where he's like playing chess with death. I mean, it's good stuff.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in Flash Gordon, right? Didn't he?
Yeah,
play?
He's Ming.
Yeah, he was Ming the Merciless.
Ming the Merciless. Yeah, I was like, I knew he played a villain in something like that.
He plays a villain in a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
so. He was that's true. He Minority Report, Things. I mean, dude's been in everything.
Yeah, he does play a good bad guy. We'll give him that. So then we got Mako Awamatsu.
Look, he just went by Mako.
Mako. I'm going to go with Mako. He was
yeah.
a respected Japanese-American actor, was brought in for his experience and played the Wizard of the Mounds. William Smith was cast as Conan's father, while Thogorum and Rexer were portrayed by bodybuilder Sven Thorson. We've heard that name a couple of times. And former NFL player Ben Davidson.
That's right.
So this was the first time Schwarzenegger and Sven Thorson appeared in a film together. Thorson has since appeared in another 14 films starring Schwarzenegger, either as an actor or as a stuntman. And then just an added note, Schwarzenegger and Sandor Bergman did their own stunts because they couldn't find suitable body doubles for them.
No one else is shaped like them.
Right, exactly.
That's right.
One of my favorite things going back and watching 80s action movies is seeing how badly they try to disguise the stunt people.
Yeah, there's some really bad ones.
The most famous, of course, is the Eddie Murphy getting thrown over the table in Beverly Hills Cop. It's like one of my favorites. All right, well, let's talk about iconic. Or anybody else from the cast who we wanted to cover? Or I think we kind of once again didn't deep dive in any big ones, but it's a pretty small cast, really.
Yeah, I think we hit all like the main ones. I mean,
I was just making sure you said Mako. So
yeah, got Mako. Yeah. All right, let's talk iconic scenes. If someone says Conan the Barbarian and not Conan the Destroyer, Laramy, what's the first scene that pops in your head? The first thing that pops in your head?
There is no scene that pops into my head. It's just Arnold posing with the sword.
With the sword,
yeah,
of course.
Poster,
that's it.
The poster.
I mean, that's all that pops into my head. But when you actually force me to think of something from this movie, I cannot help but think about either James Earl Jones turning into a snake,
yes,
or him using the snake as an arrow.
Yes,
very Serpentor, right?
Yeah.
The snake theme was hardcore in this movie for sure. So yeah, I would agree. Like the iconic scene for me is after he, I guess, comes back from the dead and he's wielding the sword out in kind of the desert. Like that scene is what I think of in this. But what about you, Jerry?
So there's a couple, of course, but the Wheel of Pain is one. Like him just pushing the Wheel of Pain. Him as a gladiator, you're being trained, and he's just sitting there. The whole to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, hear the lamentation of your women. That one for sure. Those are like the two big ones, and then. Yeah, I mean him turning into a snake, like it's yeah, for sure. It's James Earl Jones, So when you just see his face just kind of start to stretch out, you're like, "Whoa, what's going on there?" Yeah, so that one always kind of stuck with me.
I will say too, like I would call it the death stare, like when he's first introduced and he's looking at his mom.
Oh,
and it's just like that, those cold blue eyes, just like
that's right. That's right,
like, dude. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? The crucifixion scene when he's hanging there and he like bites the buzzard.
The buzzard,
yeah. That's another one that really stands out as well.
All right. So what about favorite scenes? What do you have on your favorite scenes list? As Laramy chuckles, do you have a favorite scene, Laramy?
I don't know if I have a favorite scene.
I actually have two. So,
well, then you go right ahead.
Okay,
maybe I'll go. Okay, I like that scene when one of you speak up. But
okay,
I'm not. Look, I do want to say though, I'm not trying to bash this movie or anything, but it's not a movie that sticks with me. So it's not a movie that I constantly think about. So I don't know if I have a favorite scene.
Yeah. So these are the two scenes that stood out to me, like outside of the iconic scenes when I was rewatching it. So the first one, even though it's very fake and it's dated, the fight with the snake, the huge snake in the pit, is one of my favorite scenes. Just because they went for it. I mean, it's a fake snake, but he's hacking at that thing like it's real, and getting wrapped up in it. And I did read this: real arrows were shot into the snake right over Arnold's head. John Milius actually shot them himself, because it was determined he was the best archer in the crew. It's like,
that's pretty cool.
Who did that contest?
Let's not hire like a professional archer, right? Let's just which one of us is the best? Okay, hit that target. Well, you're not quite there. I'll do it.
Right.
That's crazy. But it was the 80s, man.
Yeah. But I like that. I like that scene a lot. Like that's probably one of those scenes that I think watching it on TV, probably still edited somewhat for the blood, but that scene I remember seeing as a kid, or I'd seen that somewhere in a TV version or, just in a commercial or something. So, and then my other one, and this one's not as great, but I liked it. And it's the ghost scene when, he, she's fighting off the ghost from his body, which I don't know. It was a cool scene. Like even the effects, once again, aren't as up to par as what we'd see today. It was still a good scene, a good dramatic scene for that moment. And so, I don't know. That one stood out to me. I was like, that was a good scene for me. But, probably my favorite action sequence though is there at the end when they're in the warrior paint and they're fighting off in the, was it the snake tower?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like that whole sequence is by far the best sequence of the movie for me. Just the action, and when he lifts the bowl of whatever potion, green whatever they're drinking or whatever, and pushing it over, and then they're all doing their different fights, and of course James, Thulsa Doom transforming into the snake.
Yeah.
So it's like that great climb. Not really the climax because it's not the end of the movie, but it was one of the best sequences for sure. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and then you get to like the fight where he like sets up all the booby traps and finally,
I kind of like that one a little bit better.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah, that was good too.
The booby traps.
Yeah.
Well, we get Sundal Bergman, but Valeria back as like I don't know,
it's like a Valkyrie.
Kind of. Yeah. Which was odd, but I'm sure why not.
The movie is odd as a whole.
Well, that's true.
It gets kind of patchy in places, especially the first half. You're kind of like, it's a long time before you get into the bulk of the story.
Right.
So there's
like
just
the main plot.
Yeah. So
I do like when he finds, I don't even know like he's in that mound and he finds the Atlantean sword.
Yeah.
Like that was, I probably should have mentioned that in the iconic scene, but I do like that part. And you're just like, whoa, that sword is awesome. And then it destroys his own dad's sword. And you're like, wow, that's cool.
All right, what are the scenes you got, Laramy?
Nah, that's it. Like, yeah. when they booby trap the giant mound. That's probably my favorite scene.
Yeah.
But,
or when he like finally gets revenge on Thulsa Doom, and he with the shards of, well, not shard, but I guess the remnants of his dad's sword, and like beheads him, and like you see all the followers just kind of deflate, like
and then they just give
I guess
up.
that's it.
Like,
well,
throw my torch into the water here, and I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, you go find another cult leader to follow.
That's right.
What am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
We go to Shadazar and follow, this other lady.
Right.
I will say I do like that his beheading of Thulsa Doom is not just a like what Thulsa Doom did to his mom. Just,
where's one shot?
Right. He has to hit him like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, that's right.
So I did. I mean, it's brutal, but I did kind of appreciate. Although you kind of expected maybe some sort of a fight or something.
right.
Thulsa Doom apparently tries to give him that stare. And
I was gonna say it seemed like he was trying to, do the juju on him or whatever, but it just doesn't quite work.
The force was strong with that one.
That's right.
Oh, and I was looking for my quote to do at the end. There was a few, but I was like, if I do this line, I'm gonna want to talk like James Earl Jones, and I can't do it. So I had to pick one that he doesn't say, but he has some good lines.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Well, the whole thing about the riddle of steel, right? That's like the whole undercurrent, is the riddle of steel. And then he ends up giving him the speech about how it's actually flesh is stronger than steel.
Right.
Let me show you. And then he just makes that one girl like leap to her death. So, yeah. But you're right. No, I mean, James Earl Jones, you can't do James Earl Jones.
No. I don't even want to try.
No. James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman.
Iconic.
That's it.
Yeah, not gonna do it. All right, well let's jump into some trivia. Maybe a few scenes. Well, we can think about some other things. So, As kind of Larry mentioned earlier, the film is named for Conan, but the character's personal history seems to be based on Kull the Conqueror. Robert E. Howard, the creator of both characters, gave a more detailed origin to Kull. Conan was a young adventurer who apparently left his homeland voluntarily. He was never a slave or gladiator in any story by Howard, while Kull was exiled from his homeland and spent time as first a slave and then a gladiator before usurping a throne. The character Thulsa Doom is both named after and partly based on an enemy of Kull, not of Conan. The serpent cult features prominently in tales of both characters. So at least that was, consistent. But yeah, Thulsa Doom was a good baddie for him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we've kind of mentioned it. The Conan's response to the Mongol general is an abbreviation of a real quote attributed to Genghis Khan. The quote is, "The greatest pleasure is to vanquish your enemies and chase them before you, to rob them of their wealth and see those dear to them bathed in tears, to ride their horses and clasp to your bosom their wives and daughters." So it's a little abbreviation of that.
Yeah, probably best to shorten it the way they did.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the Atlantean sword and the Atlantean king, is that supposed to be Kull?
I honestly have no idea. I really don't. It's because it just seems like, at least as far as the creators go, they were just like, oh, let's have him find this super cool, awesome, powerful weapon. And I don't know if they really put that much thought into it.
Yeah, but the fact to actually call it, like it actually being an Atlantean sword, and Kull is, supposed to be the king of Atlantis or whatever it was that he was. So I don't know.
Well, maybe yeah.
I wonder if it was intentional.
It could be, but they never explain it.
No, they don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff not explained.
And I don't remember them even trying to explain it in the making of, on the special features on the DVD. So
yeah. I know I read like the whole thing about him finding it underground was to take it back to the story his father told about the god that's why he says Crumb at the end, because he thinks that's Crumb hid the steel in the earth for him to find, like it was a divine find for him. But once again, it's not clearly explained that way, but that's kind of explanations that I had read there. So at least they were trying to tie something back to it, I guess. But yeah, good question. The fake blood used in the film came in the form of a concentrate, which had to be mixed with water prior to use. Due to cold weather, it was mixed with vodka as an antifreeze instead. In the scenes in which the actors were supposed to spit the blood, they would swallow it instead, then go back to the special effects team for more.
Oops, sorry.
Right.
I accidentally drank the blood.
Right.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Whatever you can do to get through the shoot, I guess.
For real.
And the tree of woe where Conan was crucified was not an actual tree. The film crew created the tree out of layers of plaster and styrofoam applied onto a skeleton of wood and steel. It was actually mounted on a turntable, allowing it to be rotated to ensure the angle of the shadows remained consistent throughout 3 days of filming. Schwarzenegger sat on a bicycle seat mounted in the tree with fake nails affixed to his wrists and feet. So, yeah.
It's shocker that was not a real tree.
No, of course they had to find a tree that big.
It didn't even look like a tree. Like that's.
Well, I mean, that tree was full of woe, So I mean, it's
whoa, that's a tree. All right, as Gerry mentioned about the composer of this film, Basil Polidorus, did I say it right? Made extensive use of MuSync, a music and tempo editing hardware and software system, which modified the tempo of his compositions and synchronized them with the action in the film. Conan was the first film to use this system. So that's my only little trivia about him. But yeah, we've already kind of talked about the score being really good.
Yeah, essentially. So before that, if they wanted to be real precise, there was a lot of math that they would have to do, and they would have to calculate the time that it took to get to certain shots or points in certain scenes, and then from there kind of adjust the tempo based on that time. And so with this technology, they were actually able to just put it in and it would adjust it for them. And so it saved a lot of time. And so what they used to have was like 12 weeks to do scores, started getting them down to about 6 weeks. Nowadays, they really only have like 1 to 2 weeks to do an actual score. And so, yeah, they'll be composing, but the final recording of it and everything is usually done within a very short frame time. And a lot of it is because of the technology that's available now to help adjust tempos and timings.
Very cool. Very cool. Like it.
But yeah, it's such a good score.
Yeah.
It's like you can hum it, you know, bum, 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 bum. I mean, it's just catchy. I remember this score, even though I mean, yes, I watch it once a year, but the score I think is even just more memorable because it is very simplistic. You know, it's catchier than some of the more modern movies. Like I love Marvel, I love this, you know, the MCU, but most of those scores, it's hard to find a theme. You know, it's if I were to say, hey, hum the theme to Thor, the first Thor. Exactly. But
I was going, wait a minute, the Avengers theme song. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, but that one for sure. But I mean, like, you know, do you remember the first Iron Man? No.
It was AC/DC, really. Wasn't it? Yeah. Back in Black.
So. But like, you know, that theme is really not very memorable, but this one is because they kept it simple. They tried to focus on melody. I think he even wrote it on like just him and a guitar. And then from there, he ended up, you know, composing this whole thing for 90-piece orchestra. But yeah, it's catchy. And like I said, it's that whole scene, you know, when he turns into a snake with the, you know, the orgy and everything, that particular cue, that melody just super catchy and randomly pops in my head.
Well, you do watch it every year, so
I do, but you know, there's others that don't pop in my head that I watch often. But that one, it's just a catchy. It's like that one and the ending cue of Buckaroo Banzai. You know, it's like they just randomly pop in my head. And like, what are you guys doing there?
Love it. All right, we got a few more here. So Marvel published a comic book adaptation written by John Buscema and Michael Fleischer and drawn by Buscema. It was first published in the magazine-style Marvel Super Special and included behind-the-scenes articles as well as interviews with Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Earl Jones, director John Milius, and artist Ron Cobb. So try to find that at the next comic book convention I go to. The film was intended to be the beginning of a series with at least 4 sequels in the pipeline, and Schwarzenegger had to commit to all of them. John Milius said there were supposed to be at least 3 Conan movies, each with different themes involving swords. The first was about strength, or strength of the sword. The second would have been about how to wield the sword, and the third being about consequences.
Still waiting for that that Conan, you know, the Conqueror, Conan the King, or whatever it's called, movie that we were supposed to
It's not going to happen.
No, not anymore.
No.
Somebody AI that. Let's make it happen somehow.
It'll be animated at this point. So
right.
All right, and then my last little trivia, which I'm sure you guys would know this, but there's an enduring urban legend about the so-called Conan toy line. The story is that the Mattel toy company started to make some Conan action figures, but after viewing the film, the executive realized they couldn't afford to be associated with a film with such graphic sex and violence. They gave their doll blonde hair, called him He-Man, and thus created He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. However, since the first He-Man figures were released in 1981, the legend appears to be false. In 1984, however, now defunct toy company Remco released an officially licensed series of Conan action figures. Ironically enough, once the He-Man action figures became immensely popular, numerous knockoffs were produced, including a repainted He-Man figure that had brown hair, making it look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. The knockoff was sold mainly through mom-and-pop dollar stores and came in generic packaging labeled The Barbarian. It's like the Spirit of Halloween, you know. We can't call it Beetlejuice. It's the, you know, ghost. They give it some generic name, you know.
Yeah, it's not the Grinch. It's the Green Monster.
The Green Monster, the Bio-Exorcist, you know. So, yeah.
The 80s Flick Flashback podcast will return after these messages.
Now playing on a cell phone near you. A show for all the manly men out there, where guys talk about their favorite movies and what they can teach us about being a man, featuring the coolest guests.
Murder somebody is not like killing an ant.
The most gratifying laughs.
It's Tombstone, what can I say?
And a fresh take on movies like you've never heard before.
This will be the thing that gets written on his proverbial tombstone.
We aren't here to criticize the movies you love, but to praise them for how they apply to our lives as husbands, fathers, and really all men in general. So buckle up your seatbelts, because Manly Movies is here. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or your other favorite podcast catcher. And remember, man up.
Is anyone out there?
Another salesperson enduring the endless search. Exhausting. If you want to get right to the right conversations, you need LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Whether you're looking for new leads or strengthening existing relationships at your top accounts, get right to the right conversations with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Try LinkedIn Sales Navigator now with a free 60-day trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial.
Terms and conditions apply!
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile, with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
So this is funny because we actually kind of mentioned this in our last episode on Golden Pond. 2 movies that go so well together. On Golden. In 1980, producers began marketing Conan the Barbarian with teaser posters featuring Frazetta's artwork. Dino De Laurentiis aimed for a Christmas 1981 release, but Universal executives requested further edits after a preview in August cited concerns over violence. The studio decided to release On Golden Pond as its Christmas release instead of Conan. So the delay to the premiere allowed for changes, including the removal of scenes such as Conan's mother's severed head and Subtai slaying a monster. Originally intended to be 140 minutes, the final cut was 129 minutes, trimmed to 126 minutes in the U.S. On February 19th, 1982, the public was given a sneak preview of Conan the Barbarian in Houston, Texas. In the following month, previews were held in 30 cities across the country. On March 16th, it had its worldwide premiere at the Fotogramas de Plata, an annual cinema awards ceremony in Madrid, and it began its general release in Spain and France in April. 20th Century Fox managed the film's foreign distribution. Originally, Universal had scheduled Conan's official release in the U.S. for the weekend before Memorial Day. However, to avoid competition with other big-budget, high-profile films, the studio moved the release date up. As a result, Conan was officially opened on May 14th, 1982 in 1,400 theaters across North America and ruled the box office at #1 for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's because of this movie that we got a huge influx of sword and sorcery. Now, were they popular already? Yes, they had made Clash of the Titans in '81 and a few things like that. But like, it was
not to
really
this scale,
this movie. Though. Yeah, this was like the one that was like the gold standard. You know, it's because of that we got like Hawk the Slayer and the Sword and the Sorcerer and Beastmaster and Krull and like all these other, and none of them, I love them all, but none of them really stand up to the quality of this one, which is saying something, you know, Laramy. Because if we're going to put quality, we can put it in quotes or something, but the other ones are really bad. So there's some out there like Sorceress that are just oof, you know. But
oh yeah. You can go on Tubi and find a lot of the, you know,
they're all there,
mid '80s sword and
really
sorcery movies that are like very low budget, very poor quality.
Yeah.
So, but just trying to cash in on that. So, all right, we'll start to wrap it up. Let's talk about the new rewatchability nostalgia meter. It's our new segment where we take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. The all-new rewatchability nostalgia meter is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with the waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. It's a 1 to 10 scale, Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. At the bottom of the meter, at a number 1, is kind of, I saw it once and that was enough. This is for films that didn't leave a lasting impact. Maybe it was fun at the time, but there's not enough there to make you want to go back for more. Right in the middle is a good rewatch every couple of years. These movies have some memorable moments or themes that stick with you, but they're not something you feel the need to watch all the time. And then at the top of the meter, we have number 10, highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. These are the gems you can watch on repeat without ever getting tired of them. They're packed with nostalgia, offering that perfect blend of sentimental value and timeless appeal. Because I kind of know where Jerry's going, I'm going to start with Jerry. So, Jerry, where does Conan the Barbarian rank on your meter?
This is somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9 for me.
Okay. I thought he was going full 10.
I was about to say, you watch it every year.
Yeah, but there's some 10 is reserved for those that I watch like multiple times a year. So it's
he's got standards, ladies and gentlemen. He's got standards.
I don't know. I talk about the 80s. I don't know if I do. But no, I mean, like, yes, huge nostalgia factor. I do love rewatching this. But it's not as much as as often as I do watch it, it's not in like my upper echelon of favorite movies, ones that I typically watch, 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 times a year. So, but I still, I mean, yeah, I watch it once a year, so it's got to be like an 8.5 or a 9. So.
Okay, gotcha. What about you, Laramy? Where does it land for you?
Honestly, it's probably I'd say 4. Probably be about it. Yeah, I mean, this isn't one that I'm watching once a year. No. This is one that I'm probably only watching when someone brings it up and I need to watch it for some reason. I'm I'm just fascinated by Jerry's response there. And I'm like, what movies? How many more movies do you watch 2, 3 to 4 times a year?
They're all Christmas movies because he's a Christmas
lot of them are
podcaster.
Christmas movies. Yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol is usually like a 2 to 3 time a year watch.
Sits back every other month and watches Leonard Part 6.
No,
Ishtar for the 4th time this week. Let's go.
No, but Clue's usually like a 2 to 3 time a year movie. That's another one that my brothers and I loved. There's some others.
That's good. Yeah, mine's gonna be in between the two of you. This is probably like a 6, maybe even 6.5. Once again, this wasn't one that I really saw as a kid, so the nostalgia isn't as high. I do have the memory of my dad watching it and me wanting to watch it. But it is rewatchable. Like it's one I own, and I've watched it twice in the last couple of years and enjoyed it both times. Probably not every year, but every couple of years I'll probably want to revisit it. 6.5 is kind of where I think I'm gonna land on this one. So good spectrum there for everybody. So but for our listeners, let us know where you think Conan the Barbarian should rank on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter. Please send us an email or let us know on social media. We want to hear what you think as well about where it lands. So, all right, gentlemen, we have covered Conan the Barbarian. Any last words or thoughts about it before we wrap it all up? We've said it all.
I mean,
once again, I'll just end this by saying,
Then we're just gonna stare at us with the blue eyes of the snake stare. So
do they ever I'm trying to remember, do they ever actually call Mako like Akiro by his name? Because he's just credited as like the Wizard of the Mound.
It was I don't think so.
But then in they he's given the name Akiro in the in the Destroyer.
Yes, I think they don't. They don't call it, because I did read that. They don't give him the name in this one, but they do give him his name in the second one, and that's
the second one.
Yeah, and also the same thing with the female, the love interest, Valeria. She never speaks her name in the movie. Like, she's never given a name. They actually had a scene where she introduced herself, but it was cut from the movie. So yeah. So
too much talking.
Yeah. So interesting. And I skipped over this one. Well, since we brought her up, I'll bring it up. Although Valeria is Conan's love interest in the film, in the Conan canon, the pirate queen Belit is considered to be the love of his life. Valeria even borrows a lot of Belit's characteristics in the film. Many who are familiar with the Conan pulp novels wondered why Valeria was in the film instead of Belit. In the film's commentary, director John Milius said that he'd always wanted to film a Valkyrie-like character, and Valeria was more closely fit the description than Belit. So, as we obviously see it.
That's funny. You're just like, I just wanted to throw this in. Well, that's like on that movie Ultraviolet, right? Where like the titles are all like comic booky, and it's like it has nothing to do with comic books, but the guy was like, I just always wanted to make a comic book movie, so I threw those titles in. I mean, that's like the same thing. Oh, just Valkyrie movie, why not?
He wanted to make a Viking movie, so let's do Conan the Barbarian. So
there you go.
He also used like various he didn't want to set it in any specific time period. So that's why it has like a lot of different styles and wardrobes and stuff. So, all right, well, thank you guys for joining. Gerry, what do you got coming up on Totally Rad Christmas?
So hopefully by this time the Raddies have actually come out. I'm not sure. I'm falling really behind, but hopefully, the Totally Rad Christmas Awards, the 5th annual Totally Rad Christmas Awards, should have dropped, and everyone will have loved it. I'm assuming, and and then after that, I just have regular 80s stuff going on that I don't even have a plan for yet. So I've been so focused on the Raddies. We'll see what happens after that.
All right, cool. Yeah, but listen to the Raddies. May hear some names and podcasters on this podcast that might have won a few things. I'm not spoiling anything, but you might hear some names. So what about you, Laramy? What you got coming up on moving panels for end of April, beginning of May?
Well, I mean, the month of May is our animation month.
Right?
Yeah. So we're going to discuss Batman and Harley Quinn and the Doctor Strange animated movie.
Oh, yeah.
we'll get to both of those, and then we get into our summer series on Mark Miller. And
very cool.
Some of his work. So.
Nice.
Yes. Yep. And I'm bringing the summer sequels back this year. So we got Summer of Sequels 2, Revenge of the Sequels. So we're giving you some more information about that here in the next couple of weeks. So be on the lookout for that, and making some format changes as well. So exciting things happening the second half of this year for 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Gerry and Laramy, for being a part of this episode. Always a pleasure to have you both here. Thanks for tuning in. Yep. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Do you want to live forever?
We will run where every day is just pure fun. Goonies never say die, they remind. In those films we lose our mind. And all his teen dreams, montages and synthwave themes. In Ferris hands, the city bends, living a life like it never ends.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.